Movie Holics!
Did you read a review where the critic told you should not or should see a film? But then you found out that without a doubt, the film critic must have been ill. It's the attack of the Rotten Tomatoes. It's the attack. Now it's time to fight back against Rotten Tomatoes.
Welcome back, Movie Holics, to another amazing episode of Attack of the Rotten Tomatoes. I am Kyler Wilson.
And I'm Monica Kasurek, and today we're going to take a look at a film that is controversial, to say the least.
And by controversial, we mean that if you like this movie, you're more likely to get shot than a pat on the back.
That movie is Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
We felt like since the new Star Wars is on the brink of a release that we might take a walk down memory lane and talk about a movie that was once the most anticipated film release of all time.
This movie currently has a 56% critic rating and a 60% audience rating, but we don't think that's quite fair, so let's take a look.
From Kate Meh. Do kids really want to follow a plot about intergalactic trade embargoes? Probably not. But kids probably didn't want to see a movie about local gang violence as seen in the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie either. The point is, that's not what kids paid attention to. What they liked was the talking turtles and the awesome action. What the kids cared about in The Phantom Menace were talking robots, bright lights, lightsaber battles, and yes, Jar Jar Binks.
From Rob Humanick, The Phantom Menace's fleeting pleasure aren't even table scraps to my inner child. Well, Rob, we're sorry to say that this movie was not made for your inner child. This movie was made for the real children of 1999. The quicker that you and everyone else that hates this movie realizes that, the better this movie will be.
From Rob Nelson. Is it ironic or just par for the course that the most technologically radical effects film ever made would also be the most egregiously regressive blockbuster imaginable? Maybe you and I have different definitions of what the word regressive means. You have progressive, which is making progress, and then you have regressive, which is the lack of progress or losing progress. In 1999, this was one of the most advanced computer graphics movies that had ever been released. It still holds up to this day for the most part. So explain to me exactly what is regressive about this film? What is it exactly that is losing progress?
From Paul Clinton. There are no romance, no humor, ultimately nobody to care about in this oddly sterile movie. Paul? I'm not sure how you can describe a movie with lightsabers, blasters, planetary invasions, and slavery as sterile. There were tons of humorous parts, and I can't figure out what kind of romance you were expecting from a movie about an 8-year-old future Vader. But whatever you say.
From Stanley Kaufman. I can't convey the essence of the plot because I wasn't clear about it even when it was happening. Well, Stanley, allow me to break it down for you. Darth Sidious sets forth a plan starting with the invasion of Naboo that will eventually allow him to take control of the Senate and eventually the galaxy. Also, Anakin Skywalker is found and his training is set up to become a Jedi. I could ask a 5-year-old to tell me what happened in this movie and they could at least tell me that much. Maybe you should find a different line of work considering you seem to have a hard time focusing on what happens in a 2-hour movie that you're being paid to review.
From Charles Taylor. Who would have guessed that The Phantom Menace would be so incoherent, so completely bereft of a grand adventurer's surging thrills? Once again, we find it hard to understand what is so incoherent about this film. At its base, it's a bad guys versus good guys film. If you can't understand that, then I hesitate to take your opinions about any other movie seriously.
From Rita Kimberly. Joyless, overly reverential, and impenetrably plotted. Joyless, meaning the absence of joy. If you're telling me that there is not one point in this movie that you found something cool, aka filled with joy, then you are either heartless or a big fat liar.
From Thelma Adams. What's missing from George Lucas's heralded return to the screen is ... sex. What's most upsetting to us is that you got paid to say those words. If you want lightsabers and droids and blasters and Jedi, you watch Star Wars. If you want sex, you watch 50 Shades of Grey.
From Julie Hines. This isn't a film that will change history the way the first Star Wars did 22 years ago. Now, for the record, this review was written in the year 2000. That means what she actually said was 37 years ago. And Julie, I happen to agree with you, which is where the smoking gun lies.
Here's the deal. When this movie was released, it was one of the most anticipated films in a very long time.
And it's for one of the most beloved properties of all time. The simple fact of the matter, it could not live up to the hype.
That, coupled with the fact that when the very first Star Wars came out, it was a children's film.
Now, before the trolls come out of the woodwork, let's get this out on the table. The first film was rated PG. While that doesn't explicitly say that it's intended for children, it's a really good reminder that, hey, this movie is intended for all audiences, more or less. There are a few things that might be a little questionable, but it's gonna be good for your 4-year-olds, it's gonna be good for your 13-year-olds.
If you still aren't convinced that the children weren't at the forefront of this conversation, then take a look at the merchandise that was made and targeted to children.
Then The Phantom Menace came out, and everybody who had grown up loving the original movies grew up to be bitter assholes, and they hated the prequels.
At this point, we're convinced that people hate The Phantom Menace because they're supposed to.
For those of you who still disagree, I urge you, go back and watch this movie and tell me it deserves an F grade. And if you still think it does, by all means, hit us up in the comments section.
All that said, we're gonna raise the tomato meter from 56% to 77%. Even though it wasn't as good as the original trilogy, it still deserves a passing grade.
I can hear the hate mail pouring in now.
So what'd you all think? Were we unfair in our review of the Rotten Tomatoes reviews? Or did we get it right?
Make sure to let us know in the comments section below, guys. As always, hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and SoundCloud. Roll over to movieholics.net. Leave us a comment there. Subscribe to the channel. Leave us a big thumbs up, whichever way it's supposed to go. And we'll catch you next time on Attack of the Rotten Tomatoes.
Stay fresh, Movieholics, and may the Force be with you.